Welcome back, everybody. And this is the 12th session in this virtual symposium, Data Platform Geeks, Advanced Analytics and Artificial Intelligence. And now we have Markus, Ehrenmueller, Jensen with us. He has 25 years of experience working in data engineering, analytics, AI, a lot of technologies surrounding data. He's a very prolific blogger and speaker and also works as a professor in one of the leading college in Germany. And Markus' topic for today is self-service AI in Power BI desktop. I'm also glad and honored that Markus is speaking at Data Platform Virtual Summit. He's delivering a few breakout sessions as well as holding a full day training class. And I'm sure as part of his session today, he's going to talk about his training class as well. Markus, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Amit.
Over to you, Markus. I've stopped the screen share from my side.
I will start screen sharing again. So 2 clicks, screen 1 and share. And moving out the control panel here. It's disappeared. Very good. So you can see my slide deck now?
Perfect.
Perfect. Wonderful. Yeah, welcome to Self-Service AI with Power BI Desktop. Well, the idea is to enrich your business intelligence with artificial intelligence. So don't do only business intelligence, but also incorporate AI in your reports and analytics. Yes, and as Amit already mentioned, there is the DPS, the Data Platform Summit, later this year, in less than 2 months. And I'm really, really looking forward to this. Over 200 sessions and 30 training classes. And I'm very proud to being able to deliver a training class about that topic I'm talking today. So consider this as a sneak preview what we will also do for a full day workshop later this year. So I will demonstrate some of the things in the training class. I will go in depth and you will learn every single bit of the feature. So you're ready to also use the features in your reports and your business intelligence tools. So what is AI? I mean, there's a lot of definitions there. And to be honest, I did not use any academic definition. What is AI? I used AI as a placeholder for any automagical stuff. So there's a lot of features in Power BI available where just use the mouse. You don't have to think about, is it AI, is it machine learning? You don't have to write any scripts, but you can use and facilitate those features available in Power BI. But towards the end of this talk, we will also move forward to writing scripts in DAX, in M, in R, in Python. So I hope to cover interesting stuff for everybody. So if you're new to machine learning, probably the most interesting part will be the first ones. If you're already doing machine learning with R or Python, I also have you covered with some demos about that. Yeah, so GUI and scripts will be demonstrated in this talk. And smart features, when I started this talk maybe 2 years ago, I just thought about some of the features, but as I learned and everybody learned, Microsoft is really investing a lot into AI, incorporating AI into the whole tool set they have, and of course also to Power BI. So currently, I think those are the features we have available. So you can build smart reports by using Q&A, question answers, smart narratives, insights, analytic line, key influencer, and decomposition tree visual. There's also smart custom visuals from Microsoft and third parties we can use. The what if parameter can be a really smart thing. Then we can run scripts, of course, in DAX, in R, and in Python, as well for the visuals and for inside of Power Query. And in Power Query, we can also reach out to the cloud by making use of cognitive services and Azure machine learning services. And there's also those smart features, column by example and web by example, which really help us to load data into Power BI. For this talk, I cannot cover all of them. In the training class, I will cover all of them. Today, I will pick some of the report features. I will give you a short intro how you can run scripts, and then if time permits, we will also reach out to cognitive services and or machine learning services. Let's see how this works out. So the rest of the talk is about demo. So I will show you the features instead of explaining what the features are in theory. The slide deck covers 1 slide per feature with a link to the official documentation of Power BI. So you can look this up later. What I've prepared here is a Power BI file. I loaded AdventureWorks database into there. So if you're familiar with AdventureWorks, you will be familiar with the numbers and names you're seeing here. If not, AdventureWorks is a demo database covering a retail sports retailer. So they sell mostly bikes, but also clothing and components and accessories. And that's what we look at. And the first feature I want to introduce is the Q&A feature. So Q&A is this nice feature which I always introduce. Wouldn't it be nice if you just could double click on the canvas and then type in what we're looking for? And Q&A is exactly that. So if you double click there, there's different ways of starting this, but I think the easiest way is just to double click there. And then we get this nice visual here offering some of the questions, so that these are automatically generated. So Power BI looks at the model, looks at the data, and then comes up with things like that. And then we can start just typing sales amount. If we do this, and Q&A recognize what it is, so we get this blue line underneath, and then we see 18 million is the sales amount in my model here. I can then ask, for example, because looking at the number of sales amount over the whole model means over all the categories, over all the years. Usually you will not do this, but we can like split it up and ask for sales amount by category. And we want to have the product category. Then Q&A is smart enough to see the category is of course category data, so it makes sense to show this as a bar chart, and that's exactly what this does. It shows us bikes, components, clothing, accessories. I think there's some filter hidden there. That's why I see the 18 million and not the 80 million. So now the numbers look more familiar for me, for myself. You can also like ask for sales amount by promotion for 2013. So I'm also able to ask for things which are contained in the table. So like sales amount category, those are columns in our model, but sales amount per promotion for 2013, I don't have any table or column called 2013. 2013 is the contents of my year column in my model. And I can start filtering stuff there, either by date, or if you only ask for 2013 date, I think this should be work. Is it the right one? Yes. Then we see all the discounts available, and if I look there, we can see there's a filter now. So if I transfer this to a normal visual, we can see that this filter was enabled there. If I change this to a visual, so this is like this small button here, turn this Q&A result into a standard visual, means this is now a standard visual. So we can do anything we can do with standard visual. There's nothing special anymore. For example, we can also start filtering and telling, please do not show me the no discount, because no discount most of the sales we do is by no discount. I'm more interested in the promotion, so I can just exclude this, and then it's excluded. So this, you have all the features available, even if you start this by Q&A. Another feature is if you ask for sales amount by, I think this is the territory group. And for the territory group, I marked it as a geographical information. So Q&A then comes up with a map. I personally are really hesitant to use maps because most of the people I work with, they know where North America, Europe lies. Then they have the backdraft that like the Pacific region, which is like Australia and New Zealand is then just shown in the middle of the Pacific, which doesn't make any sense so much to me. And then there's also this little spot down there, and this is NA for not available, but it happens that NA is also the country code for the city code for Nairobi, so it's pointing there. So I personally don't like easy maps like that. I mean, there's a use case for maps, but not like putting 4 numbers on a map. I don't really like. And we can also ask as bar chart. So we can also ask for things. So Q&A is really, really, really powerful, and you can create nice things without looking them up in the fields list, without having any idea what the visualizations pane is offering for you. So this is really easy to use. And last but not least, we can also ask for sales amount by date. And then again, the tool is smart enough to recognize date is a continuous thing. So it makes sense to draw this as a line chart. And I think we continue with the sales amount by date. So this is one of my favorite reports, sales amount by date. So you will see many analytics by date now in this demo. What we see here is like the sales amount in AdventureWorks. As I mentioned, this is an artificial demo company, is really volatile. So numbers are going up and down over the course of the years. But we have a clear peak here. So there's like in December, in January 2013, we have a high peak, 4.2 million of sales. And again, wouldn't it be nice if we had a possibility to ask the tool, please show me what's different there, so we can learn from that, so we can replicate that, and also rise our sales in the future. And exactly this is again possible. So we can right-click this data point, and then I will zoom in because I'm not sure if you can. Otherwise, you could reach this with this analyze here, and analyze only offers one thing: explain the increase, because we had a lower number in the month before, we have a higher number in the actual month where I clicked, and that's why we get the possibility to explain the increase. And if you do that, then a small window appears, and you see this light bulb. So now actually it's building up an ad hoc machine learning model trying to explain what's different here compared to the previous month. And we get a whole lot of analytics. You see that there's like a whole list. You have the scroll bar here, and I think it's I don't know, is it 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that, analytics here. So such suggestions. And all of the suggestions make sense from a statistical point of view, but not always. If it's statistically significant, it's always practical. It's also practical significant, as we can see here in this one. So what's it telling me? Here's the analysis of the 5805 increase in sales amount between December and January. And then the first thing it came up with was sales amount by date, of course, because that's what we have in the visual, and first name. So it's found the statistically significant insight on the first name. As you can see here, there's a summary here. Ranjit, Linda, Garrett accounted for the majority of the increase among first name, offsetting the degrees of Shu. The relative contribution made by Ranjit, Jay, and Shu changed the most. Is this interesting? I'm not really sure, because the thing is, there could be one thing is that it's first names. So we could have more than one Ranjit or more than one Linda, and then numbers are hiding in there. So I'm not really convinced to do that. Also with like privacy models and privacy laws, like the European GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, prohibits basically doing things on personal level when people didn't agree to that. So basically the insight would be nice. We have like this sales amount there, this sales amount there, and in the waterfall chart we see then there was high contributions by those three. There was like a decrease there, and everything else was in the other. But the question is, why is this model coming up with the first name? Because it's statistically significant and we have it in the model. So if we do not want to have this in our analytics, we can go to the fields, to the employees, and here you see I have the first name in my model and it's not hidden. So that's why Q&A and the insight feature will make use of it. The easiest way is just to hide it. Hide means I'm hiding it from the pane here. I'm hiding it from the tools, but it's still there. So if there's a report on first name, it will still work, and we can unhide it again any time by a few hidden, and then you can uncheck the hide button there. So with this small change, if I again ask for analyze, explain the increase, we get now a different insight. So this is really ad hoc. It's reacting to what is available in the current model. And the next insight, which it's coming up with, is by gender. And M, those are the males, accounted for the majority of the increase among gender. And the question is this a good insight or not? Because if we have a lot of male employees, a lot of male salespersons, of course, they will contribute more to the sales than the female ones, because they have a majority anyways. But as I mentioned, if this tool is coming up with an insight, you can trust it will be statistically significant. And we have two different visualizations available except for the waterfall chart. And one is the 100% stacked bar chart. And here we can see that like with 100%, so it doesn't take into account the height is now the same for both of the months, and we can see how the spread was. And indeed, in December, the majority of sales was done by females, 52%, almost 1.4 million of sales. And of course, the males only had less than 50%, 47.6. And this changed. So in January, suddenly the majority of sales was done by males and not by females. And this can be an interesting insight. We can press the plus here, the plus button. And if you do that, then this insight is then added to our report. So let's generate this and zoom out again. Then we get this as an insight there, and I can share it now with my peers and discuss what's the reason there. What does it make practically sense? Was there something different in behavior between our male and female sales employees? As I mentioned, now this is a normal visual, so we created this in a smart way, but now it's a standard visual, and we can change things. So we can, for example, I'm more on the old-fashioned side, so for the data colors, I would color the females in red, the traditional colors, at least in Europe. And we can also add a constant line at 0.5. Showing like the 50% line. So we can see the majority, slight majority was on the female side in December, and now we have a majority on the male side in January. So to make it really clear, so we can indeed avoid pie charts in these things, because you could also draw this as a pie chart showing the majorities, but there's no need using those real round objects on our screens. So what is more we can do? So let's stick with the sales amount by date. Yeah. Now I've seen if Q&A does not understand what I'm typing because it's a typo, then we get always just the red line, and we can train Q&A and understanding this. But this was just a typo. So here we go. By date, and I can again convert this to a normal visual. And now we have possibilities to find out why it's going up, why it's going down. We can things let explain. I'm not sure how in Zoom the chat window works, by the way. So if you have any questions, please use the chat. I currently can't see the chat, but I'm sure some of the guys from Data Platform Geeks, like Amit, will then interrupt me. So if you have any questions, please interrupt me and we'll clarify this. So again, we have sales amount by date, and my gut feeling tells me that even if the sales are going up and down, we have an upwards trend. So in the end here, we have higher numbers than we have down there. On average, I mean, we have this peak here, but on average, it's going like an upwards trend. And we can always check if this gut feeling is right by going to the visualization and open up the analytics part here. And the analytics part is always dependent on what kind of visualization you're having. Like in the 100% stack bar chart previously, we only had the constant line. In a line chart, we have different things, like the trend line also available. And I can just turn the trend line on. There's a Q&A. Here we go. Q&A. For the Q&A, can we display table rather than chart? Yeah, of course. It's a very good question. Let's go back again or open up a new one. So can I move the questions there so I can see? So I can answer this live, and we can, of course, write sales amount by category. Let's stick with this one. And then it's coming up with a bar chart, but I could change the map to a bar chart. I can also say as table as a command, and then we get the numbers as a table here. So yes, this is a really smart feature. And in the current thing, they also introduce small mathematic things. So I can just tell sales amount times 2, and then it's multiplying by 2. I mean, not that you should do that, but I think this gives us a hint. Maybe they're working on something smarter things where we maybe can in the future then calculate things in the Q&A instead of reaching out to DAX. So I think this would be really smart. And I always forget because it's so new. Let me go back to this page. So these questions, are there some syntax rules for Power BI queries? That's depending on what you what you mean with Power BI queries. So when we do things in Power BI, there is no syntax rules because this is only charts which I fill with fields. So I could like this chart we built here. I could also build by just clicking on the line chart and then selecting my, for example, my date and putting the date column then on the axis and then selecting the sales amount measure and taking the sales amount measure and putting on the values. This is the usual way you would build the things. I think so when I first saw the Q&A feature, I thought, yeah, this is nice for demos, but who uses Q&A? Because I can always build it like by drag and drop or just clicking on checkboxes. But now I found out that I'm always constantly using Q&A because I'm much faster. Instead of looking up there and selecting some visual, I can just type because I'm faster in typing than moving my mouse. So I use Q&A a lot. And for Q&A, yes, there are some syntax rules. So if you I think I have a link there. I can't remember all the things what you can do, but you can also ask like for product categories, product category. Here we have to draw the categories, product categories, and you can ask like for the top 10 product categories. This is silly because we only have 4 products, but 4 top 10 products. Then we show you the product and for, I think, what do we have here for the discount amount, for sales amount. So there's a little bit of syntax there because the tool, of course, needs to understand what you're telling it. Sales amount, sales amount. So here we go. Top 10 product, and then we get the sales amount and the discount amount, and we get like not all of the products, but only the top 10. So this, as I mentioned, there are links available in the thing. Can we convert currency in Q&A from USD and Euro? Not automatically. So if this would work if I have like one measure called sales amount Euro and another one sales amount US dollar, I could refer to them. That's the way I would build it. I don't see any. So currently, I don't think there's a way telling Q&A that there's like a currency table and do the math automatically. Sorry. But you can always build this in DAX. There's different ways of implementing the currency conversion. So depending on, is it only one fixed one for the whole of the report, or do you need different ones per month or per week or per day? This can be differently complex. If you're interested in that, please reach out to dexpatterns.com. That's a page from Marco Russo and Alberto Ferrari, and they are the godfathers and the masters of DAX. And with dexpatterns.com, they're explaining like a pattern doing currency conversion in small steps. So really, you can really understand what you're doing, and then you can pick the one which is most fitting for you. Okay, with different language in Q&A. So the team is rather hesitant in doing that. So like for or by, this is only available in English or in Spanish. And but of course you can like use, you can use synonyms in the model. So I have a synonym for my sales amount. So it's called sales amount in my model, but I implemented a synonym and called it Umsatz. Umsatz is the German term for sales amount, and it will only also understand it, but you can see it's putting like the sales amount. It understood that Umsatz is the same as sales amount, and then showing me sales amount. Can we do comparison year to date, month to date? Yes, you can, but not by just typing in the thing in Q&A. You have to calculate those as measures. Either use calculation groups as a feature. So if you want to look this up, then we can have like one definition, what is year to date, what is month to date, what is the previous week, and then use it over different measures, or you can really build different measures for the sake of those calculations. Yeah, very cool questions. Let the questions come in. Because this is not a YouTube video you're watching, this is live, and I want to really give you answers on your questions. There's another question coming up, I can see here. So can we use custom languages like India, Tamil? Of course, you can use the synonyms to translate the things into your language. I'm aware of that the product team is working on like a metadata translation, so that you have one JSON file containing all the references to your objects in your model, and then you can add this in a different language, and this could be any language, so that your model then speaks two different, or 3 or 4 or 5 languages. Currently, I'm not sure how they will implement it, that we can see this in Power BI. This is meant like for if somebody is connecting to tabular analysis services, tabular model in Excel, then you can say, but I want to see the model in like Tamil language, and then it will show all the terms in Tamil. But doing really doing reports in multiple languages, there is no built-in feature. But I will talk on the next week on the conference, where I will show my version of how you can build those languages. So reach out to me. I give you a link to the just taking the name data mines in Belgium, which is for free. So maybe you will take a look there. So where did I stop? I did stop at the trend lines. So we have like, no, it was here, trend line, and that's what we built in. The good thing with this feature is it's so easy to use. We can just add the trend line, and then we will see the numbers here. With this, can do any? Well, with this, can you do away with DAX query? I'm not sure if I understood the question, Anna Swami. But we can always write DAX queries, of course, or DAX measures. Usually you do not write so many DAX queries because you use Power BI doing the query stuff for you. You only write the measures, but yes, you can also write queries in DAX, evaluate, and then come up with a table expression. So back to the trend here. So the trend is easy to use, but the backdraft is there's no way of, or there's no direct way of finding out how this is calculated, and we cannot influence it. So I know for sure that this is built up as a simple regression line, which is a straight line and giving us a trend, but it's not so good for like doing a forecast, because you can see like the trend line is rather off at all of the times. We are not even, I mean, some portions we are close, but usually we're rather off. So for a forecast, this would not be also cool feature. But for a trend line to give us an impression, this is okay. We can also rebuild this trend line in different ways. So for example, I build one because I'll use a lot of time on question now, so I will not build it live, but we will just reach out to one of my pre-built things here. There is in my measures, I have like, where is it? Is it here? Simple regression line. So we can add this to our values line. And then we can say we have the same thing now. So we have two lines there. One is the sales amount. Then we have in blue, we have the simple linear regression line. And then we can see, I'm not sure if you can see this in the, depending on the screen resolution, that there's a gray dashes behind there. So this is the proof that the built-in feature is a simple regression line. And how did I prove this? By making use of a DAX statement. So this is a DAX measure. If you've never seen DAX, please don't get scared away by this long DAX code. I'm not doing this to scare you away. I just want to show you that you can do also rather complicated stuff there. And this is built up. Basically, it's a simple regression line. So we can hear this is like the formula for the simple linear regression line. So you have the intercept where the line is crossing the y-axis, and then for every date we are having this times the slope. So like a positive slope would be we have an upward trend, negative slope would be a downward trend, or if slope would be 1, then we would have an horizontal line beginning at the intercept. That's the basic math of a simple linear regression line. And I didn't invent this DAX statement. This DAX statement is from Daniel Maslik. So please check out his blog. He's really smart, and he is really good in explaining things what we can do in Power BI, not only in DAX there. So this is the basic formula, but how do I know where the intercept and what the slope is? And this is done by variables. So I've done, Daniel started by building up variables. So we have the intercept here, and there's a formula how you can calculate the intercept by taking the average of the y values minus the slope times the average of the x values. So what is average of x and what is the slope and the average of x? You can see it's another variable. So the slope is the division of this expression, so number of elements we're having, times the sum of x times y, minus the sum of the x values times the sum of the y values, divided by this expression. And then we can go up there and you see we're calculating the average of x. The average of x is the average over the average of y, and this is the average expression over y. The silly thing is that the function is called average x because it's like iterating over the actual values. And what's the actual values? We can see here. So the actual values is a table expression here where I take the date and the sales amount from my model. I call it an actual x and actual y. So I'm renaming it here, and it's all for all the available dates, for example. And we can now change this, so we can just make more flexible. For example, I can introduce a filter here. So I've all selected. I say filter only for dates greater or equal than 2013. So if we're doing that, we now see that, for example, we have a downwards trend. Work on it. So we have the downwards trend because inside, if I only take the 2013 year into account, then we have a downward trend inside of the year. So this is how we can change the expression and being more flexible compared to the trend line we get from the built-in functionality. Another way of using this, or the built-in stuff, sales amount. So because I screwed up the beginning time, we're doing like 25 minutes left. Is this right, Amit? Okay, nobody's talking to me. So it's amount by date. We can replicate the date expression also by not using DAX. So if you say, I mean, to be honest, DAX is not written for doing machine learning things. DAX is a query language, and it's a language to define measures and calculations, which can be like rather easy, like summing up one value from a column, sum of sales amount, or it can be rather complex, like doing all the things people requested in the chat window, like year to date, month to date, previous week, quarter. You can then calculate with DAX. So you can manipulate the date region, for example, available for the DAX measure. And by that, we can then increase, for example, the user selected 1 month, but the measure is not only showing the sales amount for the 1 month, but it's increasing the filter range to the beginning of the month. And that's how we can, for example, calculate the year to date. So that's things you have to understand, and that's why they build DAX, not for machine learning things. But what we can do is I can always reach out to R and Python, and that's what I will do for the show as next. So we can change this visualization from a line chart to an R visual, R script visual. And if I do this, we get this nice hint there. So we get this R script editor down there. And then we have those comments. If you're new to R with the hash symbol means the rest of the line is ignored, is only a comment. So it's giving us those comment lines, telling us the following code to create a data frame and remove duplicate rows is always executed and acts as a preamble for your script. So what they're telling for us is in the language of R, what they're doing. So they're exposing the date and the sales amount. Those are the 2 columns we have here. So date and sales amount, that's what I selected when I created the visual here. So they're creating a data frame. A data frame is like a table. In the relation database, you would speak of tables. In R, the equality for that is a data frame. So if you know tables, then data frame is your friend. And then they always, because that's the way how Power BI works, is they always remove duplicates. So you will never see, like if you have, like we've seen there. So we have like many different sales per one bike. So the category bikes was not sold once, but multiple times, but we only see one line for the bikes. And that's always there. So there's just a reminder that they will also do the same if we run the R script here. And then we can write our script here, or we can paste it in. And I already prepared a script, so I will not bore you with typos here. So let's take the R script version of that. And I copy and paste it here. And then we'll execute it, and then we'll explain what I'm doing here. So if we execute this, we should see a similar line chart, like green lines going up and down for the sales amount. And then we have the trend line. The blue line is the trend line here. And this is done with the help of R. So in R, we have a lot of packages available. So that's the nice things with R, that R is itself open source, like Python. And there's a lot of packages available. So if people contribute to R, and packages are like a library containing of different functionalities, of different data sets. And the nice thing is that also a lot of academics who are into artificial intelligence and machine learning are working with R. So if they invent a new algorithm, there's a high probability that they will publish this algorithm as a package in R. So we, non-academics, can also use this. So we can use the newest and shiniest features available in the machine learning world. And here I'm using ggplot2 and scales. ggplot2 allows me to plot things, and scales allows me to have the numbers in like 1 million is 1000, if you can see this. Yeah, because R is like coming from the mathematicians and statisticians world. And they are used to write 1 million as 1E06, so 1 with 6 zeros. And my business users expect numbers like that. And scales allow me to do that. And then I clean up the data a little bit to convert it to the right format. Power BI, not Power BI, but R understands. This is a POSIX CT. This is a Unix timestamp data type. And then I plot. ggplot is a function I'm calling and passing in the dataset. Remember, dataset is the thing Power BI is exposing to me, dataset. So I'm referring what is Power BI giving to me. Then I put the aesthetics, define the aesthetics. On the x-axis, I want to have the date, and on the y-axis, I want to have the sales amount. As I have a blank here, I have to reach out to the function get to pass in the name of the column. If there were no blanks, we can just refer to the name like we do in Power BI. Then I ask for a line and data points. So we have this line and the data points. Can you see that this is not only a green line, but we have also those points, so we can see if there's a change or there's a data point in between. For example, here, this is not, somebody could read this as a straight line, but with the data point, we see there's a data point in between. In one color, and then I increase the text sizes to make it easier for you to read. I set the limits on the y-axis between 0 and 5 million. So I do not want to change this. Some filters I applied. I do not want to change the axis here. I opt for not having any legend. I don't need that. And then I put date and sales amount as text on the axis. That's for getting the green line and everything else. And then we have the blue line. The blue line, ggplot2 is capable of doing some regressions. And for LM means linear model. That's the simple linear regression. That's where we get the same straight line we already also built in with the analytics line and in DAX. The SA means, I think, is standard error. If I remove this, so we can change the script again, then we get like the confidence interval, which is narrow in the middle, where the volatility is not so big, but we have like big outliers there and there, and that's why the confidence interval is bigger there. Or you could also like change it for example, less the local regression, which allows for not having a straight line, but a smooth line. And the question if this is better or not is not a mathematic question, but depends on your business. If you think this is better conforming and now allowing better for a forecast, then go for different models of regression. We can do the same, so I can like duplicate this. Also with Python, I don't know if you ever worked with R or with Python. And usually people either love R and are not so good friends with Python, or the other way around. I didn't meet so many people up to now who love Python and love R. So they're quite different, and we can do this. So I can just show you how we can do the same stuff in Python. So I changed this to a Python script, and then of course the R stuff is not running. Again, I execute this first and then walk you through the script. So now we're having a Python script doing almost the same. So we again get the actual sales data, and then we get a trend line calculated in Python in this case. So what about the Python code? Also in Python we have packages, but in R I didn't mention it. I last looked it up, then it was over 13,000. So 13,000 packages available in R. In Python, it's not that extreme. Usually you can stick to some, to a handful of packages, which you will use a lot. Again, I convert the date to a date which is fully understandable to Python. And then I create a model. So this time I use the linear regression, and so I create the model, and then I fill it and train it. So MFit fills it now with my actual data set. So I'm putting into the model the sales amount and the dates, and then now it's building and learning from the model. That's why it's called machine learning. And this algorithm will come up with a straight line because this algorithm is linear regression. So it's learning and it's trained. Then I do the prediction. So that's how I get now, using the trained, the mPredict. The mPredict is the M is the trained model. And I do then the predictions. So that's how I get actually this line. And then I use this on a plot. So I'm plotting again. So plot is the function here, applied like as a method on my data set, putting the date and the sales amount in color green with a straight line. And then I add on that another plot, the date and the prediction. So the prediction is the blue line. And that's how I get the prediction there. And always remember that you have to actually explicitly show the plot. Otherwise, if you omit this, you will get an error message from Power BI that no plot was delivered by the visual, and you cannot show anything. And we can put this, for example, we can we can not only do this for trend lines. There's another question there. To scroll down, performance R in Python, which is better, more libraries in R than in Python. Definitely, there's more libraries in R, which does not necessarily mean this is a good thing, because like if you start with R and you're confronted with 13,000 packages, it's really hard to know where to start. So I do my research, and then I try the packages I find there, and as long as I can use the package to my satisfaction, I stick with the package. If not, then I do another research and find another package. This is maybe easier in Python. The performance depends on not R or Python, but depends on the actual algorithm implemented in the package. So you will find like the same algorithm, like a neural network, in I don't know how many different packages. All the packages will have slightly different implementations of the neural network, for example, and some of them will be faster on your specific use case than the other ones. So there's only a rule of thumb to play around with that. So be open-minded, and like always in machine learning and AI, reserve a big portion of the data doing your research, finding out what kind of data you have, cleaning up the data, but also like finding out what kind of algorithms could be there. So build different models with different algorithms and finding out what kind of way you should go. Should you build a neural network, or is it good enough with a simple linear regression, for example? And if you found out that, then you can tune the model. For example, there's not so much tuning for linear regression, but there could be a lot of possible parameters you can set and turn on and off for a neural network. So this is the second part done. So I think that the 30-20% rule applies really, really much for machine learning. So there's like 80% of preparation, trying out, and 20% of doing then your analytics and telling your peers and learning from the things. And then you start over again, because if you tell your boss that like you found that insight, if you change this and this, then your sales will go up. This, of course, then changes your real world data. So you now have to use the new data, or waiting for the new data is coming in, and then you can train again the model or a different model with the new data and learn again. So this is like machine learning. Applying machine learning is not like a one-time thing you're doing once, but this is a process. Do we need to install R and Python on the local machine? Very good question. Thank you, Jason, for reminding me that. So Power BI comes built in with the visuals here. and comes in with the possibility to run scripts in Power Query, but is not installing R and Python for you. So you have to install R and Python on your machine on your own. And you should also, if you do that, you should also create a machine, also install the R editor, for example. So if you have the, where is it? Is it gone here? Where's my R? I'm not sure if I have a Python editor here duplicated. This is the Python. Here's the R script. So I usually do not, I mean, simple things I will change here, but usually I write my scripts not in my in Power BI, but you can like install an IDE, R script editor, for example. That's also an open source editor for R. And if I click this button, then Power BI is so nice. Not only open up R script R editor for me, but it's also adding 2 lines of code up there. So take me a small minute. It's adding up to. Do you want? Yeah. So it's adding up those 2 lines there. So this is not coming from those 3 lines. So the following code, blah blah blah. This is exactly what I have up there. The following code, and those 3 lines were added during the when it opened up in R script editor. And what it's adding up here is re-CSV, so it's reading from a CSV file. So Power BI is so nice of exporting the data I'm having at hand here in Power BI to R to a CSV file and adding this line. So I can now work with the same data like I would work in Power BI, but now I have the R script editor where I have my environment, where I also can see the plot. So if I execute everything here, for example, we get the very same chart because it's based on the very same data. And we can zoom this out, and then you can see this is the very same chart as we have just seen in Power BI. And I think this is a really good idea of like combining Power BI and R editor, for example, because cleaning up the data, of course, you have your scripts and you have your possibilities in R, but using Power Query in Power BI for loading the data from different sources, shaping it, transforming it, cleaning it up is much easier than doing any scripts in R. So this is like a really cool combination of like loading the data in Power BI, then open up a R script editor where you get all the data as CSV file. You can now work on your scripts, tune your model, tune your chart until it fits, and then you just copy and paste everything except the first 3 lines back to Power BI, and then you have your script there. And even if you don't use Power BI for the visualization, you can use this for importing the data. That's a really cool feature, I would say. So 9 minutes to go. As we have people interested in R and Python, I will show you then how we can also run this in Power Query. So if you go to, where is it here? I'm not used to the small buttons there. So transform your data. If I click this, Power Query is opening up, which is part of Power BI, but some people call it the kitchen. This is where we prepare the data. And like Power BI itself, so what's happening here? Something is wrong. Here we go. So now we see, so this is 2 windows, yeah? So this, I'm really bad at this, obviously. What's going up there? So this is Power Query. Power Query is a different, it's part of Power BI, but it's a different window, which is cool. If you have a big enough screen, you can then like have on one screen, you have your Power Query where you clean and shape the data and then apply the changes to Power BI. And in Power BI, you build up your model and you build up your visualization so you can see the changes there. So it's like the kitchen. So you're preparing, cutting the thing. So the whole whatever vegetable or the whole animal is coming into the kitchen, and then you're preparing and slicing everything. And then you go out with a nice cooked dinner, which is then served in Power BI. So Power BI is like the server, the service, the waiter, and we have the kitchen work in Power Query. And in Power Query, of course, you can have access to over 200 data sources. And as you can see here, we can also have the R integration, Python integration in Power Query. So what I can do is, as part of the steps preparing some things, I can also run an R script. And that's what I did. So I have the R script running. And it's the same, just the same R script you just have seen in the R visual I'm running here. So I'm cleaning up the data, and here I build a linear model, and then I give this as an output back. So the advantage with this is that the R script only runs once if you refresh your data. So if the data cannot change, and it cannot change in Power BI, it could be a good idea to run all the heavy working, the heavy loading in Power BI, in Power Query. So we do the preparation only when you refresh the data, and then the visualization is rather fast because the script there is either small because it's only showing the visuals, or you're using exclusively the standard visuals to show the things prepared from an R script. The backdrop of this R script does not react to any filters. So if you want to apply filters in your visuals and the filter then change the data available, it will not change the curve of your trend line, for example, because the trend line is calculated by all the data loaded into Power Query. So this is the second possibility you have here available. And the same is true for Python. You can also run a Python script inside of Power Query. So there's one more question, and I think I will sum it up, otherwise I will run out of time, and I do not want to do this. Power BI works in memory with Vertipeg engine. Yes, that's right. If we have large row sets, what steps to take to reduce memory consumption? To reduce memory consumption, the one thing is in Power Query, you should always only load all the rows and the columns you really need. So that's the first thing I will do in Power Query, if it's not already done in the steps before, to filter all the rows down to the rows you really need. So if you're, I don't know, if your company has data available for 10 years, but you're sure the analytics is only done for 3 years, then get rid of the rest of the 7 years. And the same is true for the columns, because it's in memory, and in memory means that it's faster than the less memory we're using. As a rule of thumb. And the other thing is that you can tweak, you can make your data more fit-able for compression, because Vertipeg engine, as it says, it's a vertical, it's columnar database engine, and peg means that it's packing, it's compressing your data. And it's easier packing if like the cardinality is low. So if the different combinations in your columns are not so many. For example, if your date time column, split it up to a date portion and a time portion, and the size of your model will go down. Those are tricks you can apply there. So very cool. Those interactive questions, I really love them. But I think I have to wrap it up now. Otherwise, I will run out of time. So as I promised, I did a lot of demos now. And maybe you cannot remember everything, but in the slide deck, I already uploaded the slide deck and the demo file. You find like one slide which sums up what is the Q&A feature about, and also a link to the documentation where you can read further things, because Microsoft is investing a lot. So things I'm explaining today, maybe in a month or two, the feature is different because it has more features available. So always look out for the most current documentation. That's docs.microsoft.com. So the insert feature was the one where we ask for explaining the increase or decrease. But you can also ask for explaining the decrease and find where distributions are different. We didn't have time for that. I didn't show you. Did I show you the smart narrative? I did want to, but then I forgot about it. Smart narrative is quite new since September in preview, and it's the other way around. With Q&A, you're asking a question, then you get the result. With smart narrative, it's summing up what's inside the visual in English terms. And this is also refreshable, so it's not hard-coded values. But if you change your filters or your data changes, then the numbers there will change as well. And it's coming up with auto-generated summary, but you can change the text there, so you can add things. Very cool feature. I think we will hear much more about smart narratives in the future. Analytic line was like the trend line I added there, and I didn't have time for key influencer visual and decomposition tree. Use the slide deck to read that. We didn't have time for custom visuals, what if parameter. Also, I did show you the R integration. I showed you the visual and the transformation. We could also use in Power Query R as a source. I would rather rarely do that because like loading the data with Power Query is much easier. But if you already have a script in R or Python, loading and shaping the data, why not reuse this in Power Query? And the same is true for Python integration. Yeah, unfortunately, there was no time to reach out to cognitive services. I just explained the things what you then need. So you always need like the API key and the URL, so you can then call it inside of Power Query. So you can also reach out to machine learning and cognitive services. And the good thing with that is that you have one centralized version of your model, like calculating the trend, and everybody is using that. And if you change it, all of the reports will change with that. And this is rather easy to do. So I'm not a developer. I don't have any idea how to create a web service, but I can do this with machine learning. So in Machine Learning Studio, you create your machine learning, and then with just a few mouse clicks, you transform this to a web service, and then you can call the web service. And there's an example in the example file contained, and there's also documentation available for that. Yeah, and column by example and web by example, I didn't reach out either. So I'm thinking, yeah, one minute. So one last question, or maybe I just give you 1 minute back, so you can enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the conference.
So. Thank you very much, Markus, for your wonderful session. And we have 15 more minutes time to take Q&A, and we have a lot of questions coming in. And I have just feedback links in the chat window. Please go ahead and put up your comments for the speaker and comments for overall event also. And while Markus can take up the questions.
Yeah, I think I already answered all of the questions during the talk.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, let me go through again. So can I run the chart? Yes, we did. Syntax rules. Yes, there are some. So conversion.
Yeah.
What the advantage of Power Query? That's a new question.
Yeah, that's the last one.
Yeah, that's the last one. Yeah, so Power Query is meant for loading and shaping the data. So if you're into databases or have like some degree in IT, then you would call this ETL, extract, transform, and load the data. And that's that's what Power Query does for you. So Power Query generates the queries to the source data, and you can also shape the data. So you can. So we have 15 minutes for Q&A, Amit?
Yep, Markus, you can take.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then I just will take the time and show you things you can do here. So for example, if I go just to, doesn't matter. So I have like a query there. This is Power Query. And this is a query. So this is a name. And the name of this query then turns out to be a table in Power BI later. But I'm shaping everything here. And for example, I can do like easy things to say, yeah, this is calculated for a lot of things, but I only need it for some of the months. Yeah. So just click things here. Or I use a date filter and say only things in this year or this quarter or whatever. And if I click there, just watch me. So I selected things. I didn't click OK now, but like there's an applied steps list here, which is the last one is change type. If I click OK now, one thing is that's now filtering everything. So now we get only 3 dates. Not sure if this was a good idea with this one. Yeah, we have only 3 dates here. And there's a filter applied here, a step applied here. Filtered rows. And I always can like, in most of the cases, I can click this gear icon again and then reshape the filter. So I can change it there, or I can remove the filter, or I can turn it around. So this is a rather flexible tool. And the nice thing with Power Query is no matter which of the data sources you're using. So there's like common data sources, but if you click on more, you can see that there's like I think it's 200 connectors now available. So we can connect to 200 different things like Excel, text files, there's the Azure and SQL databases, IBM, and so on. You can, and like the more you get down, the more, I don't know what to say weird, but there's like things, I know SurveyMonkey. I don't know what Romla is. I don't know what Tenforce is. So there's connectors for that. You can connect to those things. And as soon as it's loaded here, it doesn't matter anymore from where you loaded the data. You can then do your shaping, filter the dates, renaming the columns. So I could rename this to bread instead of prediction. Then again, I get like renamed columns there. We can always go a step back. So if you want to see how this looked like before I renamed the things and I filtered, I can like debug my query here. And this is rather performant. So Power Query is smart enough. If like a renaming or like filtering is done, then it tries to do the filter in the source. So it rewrites the source query. So the filter is already applied in the SQL database instead of loading all the data, all the 10 years, and then filtering down to a few days. It's already trying to fold the conditions there. So what do we have here? Answered questions. Yeah. So any more questions?
Yeah, Marcus, we do not have any more. We are all done, and it's great that you have answered all the questions and we are in time.
Very good to hear.
Yeah. So friends, so that brings us to the end of Marcus' session. Thank you very much, Marcus, for taking out time from your busy schedule to deliver the session for Data Platform Geeks Virtual Symposium.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Hope to see everybody in at Data Platform Summit.
We are also waiting to host you at Data Platform Summit.